Uh-oh.
Yeah,
There
we're
we go. Now we're live. What is going on, Jennifer? How are you this morning?
not much. Just we got some fun stuff to talk about today. I'm excited.
I am really, this subject, I'm wondering if it's going to turn into like a 2 or 3 or 4-part series.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because, there's a lot to discuss. So what we're going to be talking about today is leading change in murky water. And I guess a brief explanation of what that is before we start showing love to all our people out there in the Omniverse is a lot of the tribe members, NoBS tribe members, we are change leaders by nature.
Yes.
And often we don't have the official authority within the organization to like lead change with low friction. So we're going to be talking a lot. I think we're going to be talking a lot about friction. We'll see where the tribe takes it. And then I think we've all been in situations or with organizations or teams where it's like a stinky situation. And so we're going to talk about that. Like how, why, what do you do? What do I do? What does the tribe do?
And doing change to people versus like being a part of inviting them to the change. Like that's what we talk about a lot is, hey, Jesse, we're going to do change. And I need you to be on board because we're doing change right now. Like a little bit different approach.
Oh yeah. I can talk my whole career as a trade partner when GC started practicing like their practice of last planner system and lean. Like it's funny because, and that still happens. A lot of people have the mindset of, oh, this is great because it'll fix the trades. And it's like, when are you going to fix yourself, bro? So yeah, like doing it to them versus let's do this together, right? Yes. How do you create that change environment?
Yes.
I'll tell you, I don't have any silver bullets. I only have what I know has worked for me. And I know it's worked for me because I did it wrong a lot of times.
I was going to say, I have some examples of the way not to do it, but also some ways that have worked. So yes.
Yes. So let's go to the comments. Let's see who's up with us this morning. We got Mr. Nate Price. He's back again.
He is, and he brought some fire last week.
Yeah, he did. And he was on the after party.
Yes.
So this is Nate. This is a continuation of what got stirred up in the after party, or at least our interpretation of that.
Yes.
So thank you for being here. We got Mr. Jim Guntorius. Man, everybody likes the sharks. Whoever created that visual, like he's a genius, huh?
Right, because that's pretty much what we live in most of the day.
We got Miss Maya Little. How you doing, Maya? Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Ooh, and then the gangsta Justin says good morning, coming in from Charlotte.
He kind of poked this topic a little bit too. So I remember he was part of the after party conversation.
Oh, yes. No, definitely. And that's the thing, folks. If you're on the replay, you may miss the after party, and that's okay. Just want to be clear that we have an after party every time after we have a live stream. About 5 minutes after the live stream closes, we start the after party on LinkedIn live audio thing where we can all have a nice, deep, richer dialogue where it's not just the talking heads up here the whole time. And Justin brings it. The tribe members that show up to the after party, they don't play. Like we get real, man. It's amazing stuff. And plus we get to know them better, right? Yes. We hear their voices, get to hear the inflection,
their passions, and there may be a little frustrations, and all of those fun things. Yes.
And like the significant thing is they are all forward-thinking individuals, right? Nobody's complaining about anything that they're not actively working on,
right?
So it's not the whining station.
No, it's not.
Let's arrange our thinking, right? Maybe twist it up a little bit, but it's about growing and leaving this place better than we found. Man, we got a bunch of.
We got a lot. We got to get to them because they're awesome people.
Sean Smith says, "Good morning. What's up, Sean? How you doing, my man?
Yes,
appreciate you, sir. For like he shares."
He posts a lot of our stuff. Yes.
Thank you, Sean, for that. That's super, super helpful.
Yes.
Miss Amy coming in from North Carolina. How you doing, Amy? Man, we got a bunch of people. Bradley, he says, getting over the hurdle of actively employing change in a worry environment. So that means, translation, y'all, Bradley's going to bring it today because he's got some experience. And here's the person that we can blame for the topic.
For the topic.
I'm joking, Bruce. How you doing, my man? He's coming in from New York City. And this has been on his mind for a while, and we're finally touching on it, Mr. Bruce. So let us know, help steer the conversation. Then we got LinkedIn user. She says, all right. Leading change, lessons learned, and any change initiatives is the most critical review phase. Yep. And so, folks, we are going to be tapping into you for your best practices, your cheat codes, your lessons learned, because that's what this is about, right? How do we, as a community, help support each other and grow together? James Gable with the Uncommon Communicator coming in from Colorado. Man, I wish I was in Colorado right now. I like Colorado. Mr. Buddy Brumley. The sharks are nipping at his butt. I love it. Oh, here we go. We got LinkedIn user coming in from Jakarta,
Indonesia.
We international, girl.
No.
Yeah, that's Albert. That is Albert. Albert, appreciate you, my man, for all the support. And folks, y'all need to follow him. He posts some pretty insightful, thoughtful stuff around people and HR and this sort of thing. So another amazing professional tribe member.
Yes.
Jerry Alberti.
Good morning.
Jerry, I owe you a call, and it's probably going to be 2 weeks till I call you, my brother. I flaked out on him. We were doing a live stream. We had scheduled a live stream together because he does one every week of construction-oriented conversations. And I had a personal emergency that I had to take care of, so I flaked on him. But Jerry, I'll be hitting you up in 2 weeks because I'm going to be flying around here the next couple of weeks. And then Chief
Marketeer is back.
The Chief Marketeer has made it back. And folks, I want to give a shout out, and everybody, let's do some claps and some hearts in the comments for Adam. Adam, DJ Hootie Hoots, is not going to be running the back of house today. He's being dad today. He's spending time with the family, and we want to celebrate that, right? We're making priorities and spending time with his family. So Adam, thank you for demonstrating the behaviors that you seek and that we seek. Yes, that's what it's all about.
So two things. One, scroll back up because you missed Leslie. And then I'm going to make sure everybody knows if you're listening and you've not engaged or not typed, and that's okay because we know sometimes it takes a little bit. But if it's your first time on the live stream, first time you've ever listened, please drop a blue heart in the comments so we know, so we can give you some love, because we want to make sure everybody knows that this is a community and a tribe, and we always try to elevate each other and kind of be there for each other. So first time, blue heart. And then again, all of those in the comments, please jump on those blue hearts. Also, let's listen and watch what everyone else is writing. Most of the stuff happens over there while Jesse and I are just talking. So continue to add your gold nuggets over there. And then I think that's all I have right now.
Leslie, how you doing, Leslie? Another gangster that y'all should be following.
Yes.
Have you seen her videos?
Oh my gosh, they're next level. They are. Yeah. So go follow her, and her content is like awesome.
Yes. And then Hoots, he's swimming on the edge today. The edge of destruction. All right. So before we go jump into the conversation,
the reason people showed up.
We got a little announcement for the folks out there.
Yes.
And where is it? Let me find it. Boom. You know anything about this?
I do. So this is exciting. So Jesse had this crazy idea, and somehow it's turned into something way bigger than just an idea, because he's a big idea to action guy. So he decided we needed to have some a little bit more intentional conversations about those people out there, us, everybody in this tribe, people out there leading change in their companies, in their spaces. And sometimes you may be the only one in those spaces like that really can understand what's going on. So how do we get these change leaders in a space where they can grow, they can learn, they can be better listeners, they can ask more interested questions and not try to solutionize or solution shank the people that they're listening to and they're talking to, because we're really good at coming in going, you should do this and you should do this, and I have the answer for you. And sometimes that's not, most of the time, that is not what needs to happen. Because if we're asking the question, sometimes they can get there and figure it out on their own. And that's what helps us grow and helps us continue to be able to, you know, our brain gets different, our mindsets change. But if we come in and just give the answers and, oh, this is what I've done, this is what's worked for me, then sometimes that doesn't help. So you've created a space, which is amazing. We call it the emotional bungee jumpers, because that's what it is. And it talks about, really focuses on vulnerability, transparency. How do we come in and grow as leaders and then be able to show up in our spaces better? And that's my summary.
Yes, that is the whole point. Thank you, Jen. Sounds like you've done it once or twice, huh?
For like over a year, and I still like a year. Let me be clear. So we've been doing. There's a group of us that have been doing this for a year, and then we launched emotional bungee jumping in January, and so we've got people that are jumping in and joining in this group, and we went through another exercise last week, and I've been doing it for a year, and Sean's comment was, oh, Jennifer is fallible. Like, she still doesn't have this crap figured out. Absolutely, I do not. I'm still learning and growing and trying to get better. And there's times where I'm not great. And so, yes, it is an evolving a space for sure.
I'm dropping the link in the comments, y'all. So if y'all are interested, or rather, I'll say it this way, for those that are interested, hit up the link, get some information. If you know somebody that may benefit from it, feel free to share that link. The early adopter rate expires March 17th. So we won't be seeing y'all again until after the early adopter rate is gone. And that's why we wanted to share it with you guys. And that's also, I want to be clear, we are still going to continue doing NoBS with Jen and Jess. Yes. This is not going to stop. That's just it's an added element for people that really want to dive in and have a different type of experience. Yes. And we got some gangsters in there. I'm not going to share who's in there. They can self-identify if they choose to, but we got some ballers in there, and it's an amazing experience, I think, for all of us.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess we should start talking about this topic. Jen, what do you think?
Yes. Are you going to wait and do the book stuff later?
Yeah, I'll do that later.
Okay. Yes.
Time.
Yes. Sounds like a plan.
So the people want to know, Jennifer, how do you work through the friction of leading change?
I'm not sure that. Okay, first of all, we're posing this question to everyone out there. So we know people have to deal with sometimes not great times when you're dealing with change inside your organization, inside your departments, and on your job sites. Sometimes change, we know it's inevitable that change is going to happen. Sometimes we're leading it and we're trying to change and make the world better. And sometimes we are the receiver of change being done to us. And so let's make sure that, and so our question to you is, how do you work through the friction of leading change? So that's you as a leading change agent. And then we're even happy if you man, I remember, and Jesse, I know you have specific examples of when change has been done to you. You're going to do change, and that's going to make us better. And so I'm going to flip it right back to you and go, so when we're talking about change, I know you and I have talked about this, there's a couple of different sides to it, because, sometimes we are these change agents, but we're also ones that we didn't just become these change agents. We have grown up and have experienced a lot, and now we're in a place that we want to do it better.
I like it. Okay. So since you're deflecting, I'm going to deflect too. We got Miss Dawn Armfield coming in from
Good morning.
in Detroit. So hopefully you're bundled up and warm with some coffee. Folks, Dawn, we got to hit her up, because I don't know if I recognize the post, but thank you, Dawn, for showing up and contributing.
Yes. And So let's love on her, like on her. She's from LinkedIn. So let's go and make sure she's got lots of tribe love on that. Yes.
Yeah, gotta bring the love. And so Maria comes up with the cheat right to the gate. She says, with smiles and lots of jokes.
Smiles here. Wonder where the jokes are coming from.
That's funny. You know, I think so I'm going to start with the leading change with very little influence, very little credibility, leading change kind of as a rookie, I would say, in the workspace, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so when I was an apprentice, it was a long time ago, I worked with a lot of plumbers that they hoarded information, right? Like the journeyman would hoard information and only give me what I needed for like the next hour or two. And so that made me dependent on them. And not only that, it was I remember there was this one guy, I'll never forget. It was my first day on a commercial job site. I had just graduated high school and they assigned me to this one plumber and he asked me to cut some cast iron. He said, man, go get the snap cutters and cut me a piece of cast iron about 2 foot long. And I didn't know what the hell snap cutters were. And then he said, well, it's those things right there. Like, oh, okay. Like, and that's kind of how he said it. He just like yelled at me. I said, okay. And I grabbed them like, man, they're not like intuitive as to how to use them. I said, bro, like, how do you do this? And he pushed me out of the way. He said, get out of the way. Man, I hate it when I don't have time to babysit. So he gave me a plumb bob, sent me upstairs. He said, drop this plumb bob down the hole and stay there until I call you. And I thought he was giving me an important task to do. What he was doing was just getting me out of the way and left me up there for hours. And then the foreman on site came and saw what was going on. And later on told me like what was happening. And so that's just one experience, but there was a ton of experiences of me working with different journeymen that made me like decide, like, I'm not going to be that way. That's not cool. It's not an environment that I'm enthused to show up at and really even open to learn, because I'm always in this like defensive mode. And so it was interesting because I got switched to another project eventually because that project ended, and similar things. So I kept seeing the same type of pattern. And so I took it upon myself to be the spokesperson for the apprentices and talk to the bosses about how they're not cheating. And this was before the toxic everything existed, right? This was back in the day where it was just like, shut up, stop complaining, do your damn job. You want feedback? You got your check last week, right? There's your feedback. And so I was advocating for me and for the other apprentices. And what I became was the squeaky wheel, right? Because I've been in the trade a whole 10 months, maybe a year. And I'm trying to tell people how to better run projects. So the point in that is that I had no credibility. Right? I did, like, I was new, and the truth was the situation was horrible, right? It was not an inviting situation where people could thrive and grow, but I just didn't have the credibility or the experience to really understand, more of the dynamics that were contributing to that type of situation, because there was a lot of history and baggage. That's how they learned. I mean, we just had a live stream with Davis Walker and I'm sorry, not a live stream, podcast on mental health, and Adam, and we were quoting Jason Schroeder about hurt people, right? So when we think about, like, looking back, these guys were treating me, teaching me, they really believed they were teaching me the way they learned.
Yep.
Right. And so that's how they were treated coming through the industry. I made very, very little progress on affecting any change because I really didn't know what I was talking about. And it was frustrating. Does that sound familiar at all, Jen?
Yes. I mean, we are products of this cyclical environment. Like it's not all of a sudden somebody shows up and goes, I don't care about people. I don't care what I do today. I don't care that they get home safe because I need my paycheck. Like, I don't think people show up that way. I think that people show up eager, and they may think they have, knowledge and understanding. They may not have all the experience, like you said, that everyone else on the job site has. And so you and I talk about this a lot. There's a balance of, understanding how to do your job and how do we make it better. And so I think sometimes we get so caught up on that, the nuts and bolts and the blocking and tackling, that we forget that there also are ways to improve. And so you and I, we just talked about this the other day or yesterday, is that we've got to find the balance. But if we are those new people coming in, those apprentices and things like that, we've got to make sure that we're not trying to yell from the rooftops that something's not okay if we don't have a body of work, if we don't know how to do our jobs, because then we don't have the credibility, which is what you just said. So it's a balance. And I think that's important to understand. It doesn't mean that your ideas don't matter. It doesn't mean your voice doesn't matter, but we also need to make sure that we're listening. And so I know there's some comments over there about communication. And when we're talking about change, how you communicate it is key. And I mean, I know that from experience. I know that just within my firm, early on, it's like, oh, there's a better way to build. When we're using lean tools, when we're creating an environment using lean construction, like, it's a better way to build. And if you think that you can walk in to a group of very experienced, seasoned people that have made money, that have met schedules, that have done and had success their entire career, and you can come in and go, I got a better way. I don't care if you've had 50 years experience or you have 2 years experience. If you walk into a room with people that have had success and you tell them, I have a better way to do something, you need to listen to me and we're going to be better, you're going to fail.
Yes.
I'm just going to say it's not going to work.
Yeah. And so that's essentially what I was doing, right? I'm this little squinkler that just entered the trade, and I'm telling all these gray hairs they're doing it wrong and my way is better. Like, that's what was happening. So James Gable, he's lived it, right? He says he grew up in the same level of apprentice darkness. I've applied 2 levels of leadership learning in the trades: be like or be better. My be like list is way smaller than my be better list.
Oh, I like that.
That's powerful, James. Thank you for sharing that, because I was complaining and in my head, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? But the broken wheel gets replaced.
True.
And it also squeaks a lot. And so I had to take that into account. And what do I mean by broken wheel? Well, if I can't perform the core functions of my work, like I don't have a command of them, and I'm squeaking all the time, I'm broken. I'm about to get replaced. And so that was a thing that I had to learn. Luckily, I never got let go. Not in the trades. I worked at a gas station. I got fired one time working at a gas station. Anyways, and so it was important that I built the skills and understood how to do the job. And also, like James said, and so this is a takeaway for folks out there, if you're trying to lead change and you're still also developing the skill set of your core responsibility, you got a lot. You're going to be learning a lot about doing the job. That's easy.
Yes.
But the poor leaders, take notes, because they're teaching you of what not to do. Back to James.
That's okay. And that's okay, because you can learn from that.
Yes. And you're going to find some gold nuggets with some of the leaders. But the point is, it may be a situation that leaves you leaving discontent, but learn how not to do it. And like you said, there's a ton of conversation here about communication. And so we got this one. He said, I just want to get this off my chest.
Do it.
In context of leading change, communication is key. There's no such thing as communicating. Well, yes, but no. You see, communication is only one of the initiatives in leading and managing changes. Also, information overload is real. How do you feel about that information overload idea, Jennifer?
Well, I 100% agree. So I am going to say yes. And if we're not communicating that, so I'm going to bring it back to communication, that Overload is a big deal. Capacity, overcommitment, those are things that cause us to fail. Those are things that we track and that we publish and we put them out there. Those are things that cause us to fail. So if we're not early on, when we communicate all these great things and all these things that we're going to do together and it's going to make us better, and if we're not clear, and I've been there where I thought it was clear and I thought it was communicated, and then when you get the resistance and the pushback and we got work to do and we got things to build and we don't have time for all this other stuff, it wasn't. And so if you're not clear early in your communication that, hey, here's some tools. Let's be clear. We got a toolbox with a lot of tools in it. Okay. You and I have talked about this on a couple of other live streams. Not every tool fixes every problem. And so we have to be clear in how we communicate that out to our teams when we're kicking stuff off, early onboarding, alignments, things like that. Hey, here's a toolbox. We got a lot of things here. All of these tools may not work for your team. All of these things may not be what you can take on. You don't have the capacity, you don't have the experience, you're still trying to do some other things, but that doesn't mean we just throw the toolbox out and we don't use it. So we've got to be clear. Hey, we're not saying we're loading you up with all these tools. So just take them on and kind of figure out how to do your job and also carry all of these tools on your back. But hey, let's look at these. What are some big things that you're dealing with on your project or you anticipate that you're going to deal with? And then, hey, here's some tools that may work. Why don't you see what they can do? And then, you know what? Throughout the project, always, there's going to be other things that pop up that we did not anticipate, that we did not plan for. And guess what? There may be a tool for that too. And if we can communicate things like that and not here, we know you got a lot going on your plate. Here's some more things to add to it, but letting it be, hey, pull it in when you need it. Hey, pull these things in that can maybe help you and make things a little bit easier or help you get through things, maybe a little bit quicker, and then see how they work. And then let's have a conversation about it. Like, you've got to be able to communicate that early. If you don't, and they just think you're loading up plates and you're loading up more than what they're already dealing with, and they're struggling because they're working a lot of hours and they're trying to figure out how to balance it, they're going to push back every time.
Every single time. If the tool or the change does not ease my pain, I don't want anything to do with it. Bottom line, and the truth is, my process is working for me. And even though from the solutionizer or outsider perspective, it is not as efficient as it could be, clearly I have the capacity to tolerate the inefficiencies that I'm dealing with. Yeah. Right?
And you probably had success with them.
I'm okay with it. And so again, how do we introduce it so that, and we'll get to that, right? How do you attract people to go off the edge and jump in the deep water?
Yes.
And we'll get there.
Yes.
There's a bunch of comments that
okay, go. Yes.
So I'm going to take it a little different way, but this is important. Considering the change impact on people of all levels might be the other critical element of leading change. And that is something super deep, super deep. So we need to give some claps and high fives for that one. And here's why. One of my problems when I was at that apprentice dealing with, whatever, I did not know how to speak foreman language. I did not know how to speak in such a way that my message would connect with the superintendents. I did not know how to communicate my issue to executive leadership. And so I was communicating with this vocabulary that made perfect sense to me, but I couldn't contextualize it to the different layers of the organization.
Yes.
Right? Now, as an apprentice, I wasn't analyzing my thinking and my messaging in that way. I've learned that throughout my career. And I think that's an important point is we don't understand, yes, I'm feeling pain. I want this to be different, but I'm not taking into account the pain it's going to cause for anybody else in that value stream to make the change.
Right.
Looking back, I know why it was going to be so hard to make any kind of change. Nobody was talking about mental health and employee appreciation it was shut up and work, period. Mm-hmm. And so the culture or the conditions within the industry at the time did not entertain this type of conversation. And so for them to go like, you're right, Jess, we need to go get foremen that have a high emotional intelligence. That wasn't a thing, man. Like it wasn't a thing. And so learning how to communicate the issue, contextualize it for each layer of the organization. When I figured that out, man, it made things so much better. But it forced me to have some empathy for those people in understanding what they're dealing with and understanding the pressures and the strains that they're under that are detracting from the change it is that I'm seeking. What do you think about that? That sounds fair.
Two things hit me when you were talking about that. I try not to focus on them because I want to hear your words. And so I'm trying to do better at that. Two things. Number one is the words we use are so critical. And so I'm going to throw it back to you in a minute because I want you to talk about an experience that you had this last week. But when we are standing, participating in our daily huddles, okay, when we're at the boards, I hear a lot of people talk about, I am managing the board. I'm managing the huddle. I'm the one up there and I have to make sure that it's done right. I hear those words versus, and I've gone to the job sites and I've been able to facilitate that huddle having not been there the day before and probably may not be there next week. And so the words we use when you are up there and you are managing that board, you are taking on everything on that board and you are telling people what they need to do. That's not the point of the daily huddle, is that you're telling people what they need to do. You can do that without a board.
Exactly.
And so it's like, if you're the facilitator, and you know, that's a big thing that I do, is I go into a lot of rooms with a lot of different people at different levels and do a lot of facilitation. And the magic of facilitation is, and that goes to the other point, is when you know how to walk into a conversation and you don't have to have all the answers and you're not the answer man and all you're doing is helping connect things and bridge gaps and, oh, pull this out of here so this person can hear. When you're in that space and people see that, oh, they're just trying to help, or they're just trying to help. Oh, and they're okay. And they're asking really good questions that now more data and more information is coming out that wasn't out already. And now the conversation's growing and now we're getting more information that now we can make better decisions. That's the space we need to be focusing on. And we get so caught up in, I got to be the smartest person. I have the answers. I have the experience. We forget that, yeah, somebody may not have the experience and the answers that I have, but if we're asking the right questions and creating that space, there could be other things that were not even identified yet that someone could bring up that then can turn into something so much better.
Yes. Yes. And Amy concurs. She says, stepping back and taking a helicopter view takes out the emotion and allows for a more objective conversation. So like, and to me, while you were describing how like the best way to facilitate a huddle is like, let me just back off and monitor and, you know, poke and nudge as necessary or pull the information, ask questions, engage people. That's different than me driving my objectives, driving my agenda.
And you get me, you help me, eyes and hands. Like if you're focused, if you're on the job site and you're paying attention to people's eyes and hands, and eyes are easy for me because I like looking people in the eyes when I'm talking, but you can see maybe someone that has something, but they're not going to talk. You have somebody that's maybe a little frustrated or a little bit, somebody made a comment and they're like, ooh, like you can tell if you're paying attention that you can engage people into the conversation, or you can ask questions and get more information without attacking or without making somebody feel super uncomfortable, or they're scared to say something because then it's going to be something that may not set right with somebody else. Like there's so much going on that if you're just paying attention and it's important that you can engage and you can really have a lot more fruitful conversations.
Yeah, fruitful conversations like the ones that are happening in the chat right now.
Okay, tell me. Yes.
Killing it. So Bradley says, taking the time to establish your posture as patient and tolerant enough to read the room big time. Ascertain the collective recipient's positive, what is it?
Proclivity.
Proclivity. Man, that's a fancy word. To even be changed, yes. And engineer design delivery that encourages and almost requires feedback during implementation. You got to have a feedback. Like,
Yes.
let's just say that. If you're driving change, feedback loop. If you don't have a feedback loop designed into your change initiative, it is not going to be sustainable.
Correct.
And Steve has a good point on that. Being humble and realizing you are most definitely the change at some point doesn't hurt with developing the delivery. So self-awareness,
Yes.
right? Self-awareness and being able to read the room and understand where people are is so critically important.
Yes.
And then Nate brings it. He says we need to pay attention to the non-formal underground culture in an organization. Jen, have you ever seen an informal underground culture anywhere?
Every single day.
It's real, right? It's a real thing. If we want to cause change, there needs to be a perceptual change for the tribe. And that is best accomplished by understanding and helping the daily rituals and social networks, right? Serve everybody. Changing a policy, oh, I love this, does very little. Convincing a mid-grade, mid-performing journeyman can drive change all around them.
Bam.
Right. So in Jesse language, sending out an email saying thou shalt is going to get you very, very, very little. It's probably going to get you frustrated because you're going to say, well, I sent the email. And what's all mixed up in there with this underground culture in an organization is the relationships. If you don't know you have an underground culture in your organization, it's probably because you're not connected to the people.
Because you're not part of the underground culture.
You're not invited, right? And it's not to say that you have to be a part of it,
right?
But you've got to be aware of it. And the only way I know how to be aware of that is to have deep, meaningful relationships with people. Like there's been stuff where it's like, Jess, we love the help that you provide, but we have this thing over here going on, and we don't really want you there because you're going to impact the way people behave and the way people show up. Mm-hmm. This was back when I had like formal authority and stuff. Mm-hmm. And like, fair enough. Like, you just tell me when you need my help or how I can support whatever's going on with that. And I'll state, yeah, my feelings were hurt a little bit because I want to go to every party. Mm-hmm. But the main point was we had trust enough for them to say, hey, bro, this is happening. And we don't really want you there because X, Y, Z, which was super meaningful. Fernando, if you're out there, I haven't forgotten.
Well, Jesse, can you talk, and just because it's touching on all these things, is when you were visiting a project this week and you were talking with the superintendent, and he talked about like change versus create. Can you dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to visit this super amazing project, the only project I've ever seen, and I've been on tons of projects across the country, where the GC team is holding a huddle around their weekly work plan. And it's not the weekly work plan of the trades. It is their own weekly work plan for each member of that team on the tasks that they're focusing on that week to execute. Super, super impressive. Anyways, that was like the fun part. But the other like really big part is one of the superintendents in there was talking about change, or the question, the question that comes up all the time: how do you get buy-in, right? And his response was, well, I don't want buy-in. I want to build trust, which is a totally different way of looking at it, right? And for me, what I took from that was when I hear people ask me, Jesse, how do we get buy-in? I think what they really mean is, how do I get everybody to comply?
To do what I say.
Why don't they just do what I want them to do, right? That may not be, but that's the feeling I get. Mm-hmm. The right question is, how do I build trust? Because if I build trust, that buy-in thing that's bugging the hell out of me totally disappears. And so that's maybe a question for folks out there. How do you build trust? I mean, I know how I do it. Mm-hmm. We can talk about that. Now, the other thing that he brought up was there's a difference between changing something and creating something. And there's a lot, that is a very
that's a whole show.
That's a whole show. But fundamentally, he pointed out the way we create something is by starting at the beginning, and we do it every day. I was like, bro, like that was so simple, right? I went and got me a tattoo. Can I show my tattoo?
No.
So it's like, again, changing in this definition or this context is coming in the middle of something and course correcting and adjusting. When you're going up against momentum, you're going up against, I forgot what the word is. Anyways, there's things that are already in play. And so we're trying to shift, and there's friction, there's pain for everybody. Everybody's going to experience some kind of pain there, as opposed to creating from the beginning. How are we going to do this damn thing? And then do it every single day, even when it doesn't necessarily make sense, right? A lot of times I hear, yeah, we know that's going to be good. And we're going to start it when we get more people on site.
Yes.
Start now, so that when people show up, they know, oh, this is the environment. These are the rules of the game. This is how we're going to play.
Okay, so I'm going to give the shout out because you don't have to, because I get to work with Nick Jackson a lot in his job, and he's blowing some stuff up. So those of you that are on LinkedIn, just go blow him up and just tell him that you heard about him, and we need to give him some love, because he's one of our leaders, and he's out there leading change. He's supporting it, and you got to hang out with him a little bit. So anyway, it was cool.
Totally, I was glad to be there and to see that. Competing enterprises or competing firms are supporting each other in their learning and sharing best practices. I mean, the ball's rolling, right? Like if you're not doing that, you're falling behind. If your firm is not doing that, you're going to get left behind, because it is happening right now.
Yes.
All right, Bruce.
Okay.
Sorry, Bruce. Took so long for me to get back to your comment here. He says, like, the reality. He's been in positions like this, and currently he's watching a situation close to him where individuals are, what he would say, based on what you were saying, is adapting to or surviving negative change or circumstances. You ever seen something like that, Jen?
I mean, yes. I mean, for me, it looks like, is it organic change? Are you like seeing where the buy-in is, who the people that want to do it? What does that look like versus, hey, here's a new manual, here's a new rollout, here's a new policy, and we're going to adopt this because it's going to make us better. And I mean, we touched on it earlier, but to me, when you get change done to you, can you survive it? Can you get out of it without drowning? Versus if you're a part of the change, if you're a part of what's happening, then you're going to be able to ride that wave and be able to help get it where it needs to go. To me, that's exactly what I know. Our firm started one way, thinking this was the better way to do it, because you're trying to do things across an entire organization. And we realized very early that, again, if we didn't include those people that have done a lot of amazing things and let them be part of the change, you're going to have more resistance than you are buy-in. And so you've got to make sure they're a part of the change.
Yes, and yes. So we have one. I'm going to cheat here because this is kind of my love language here.
Okay.
Dawn says one observation she has in skilled trades is something that is perceived as reluctance to document the how-to. So she's like experiencing this, right? Of jobs, because no two jobs are exactly alike, which is true. But if we can document how to do the elements of the jobs that are repetitive, i.e. what a tool is, how to use it, when to use it, and then use job instruction. So folks, if you're not familiar with job instruction, look up TWI, Training Within Industry, job instruction. Again, that's my love language. I love that stuff. And we can't help transfer that knowledge, but doing this is a skill. So actually translating the work into job instruction is translating it is one skill, and then actually executing job instruction is another skill. It's not something everyone can do easily. She's had success teaching a guy who wanted, and it continues on. Now, the reason I want to bring that one up is because there's some tools in there that are very useful For some people, they're going to feel like that's just too tedious. That's so much stuff. Like, let's just do the damn thing. Sure. But in the environment that we're currently in, business needs to adapt quickly.
Yes.
I mean, straight up, we've got to learn, we've got to adapt. When we have the core elements of the work, of the jobs, documented in such a way, and documentation, I'm going to be talking about this in Dallas next week. A lot of people have it documented, but if it's not incorporated into our, I'll call it onboarding, but like training people, who cares if you have it written down? Now, when we have this and we can bring people into the organization, into their specific role within a reliable time frame, right? Like if I do this training, they're going to understand that skill. They're going to have a command of that skill within 3 weeks or whatever it is. We are better equipped to absorb change. All right. Like if I don't have some mechanism to help people get really good at their job really quickly, they're dealing with trying to figure it out on their own. And then we got a new initiative and another initiative and another initiative. And all of that just get like, whoa, we get overwhelmed. So thank you for sharing that. Like job instruction is a phenomenal tool to help accelerate our ability to adapt, to learn, and absorb the change, because we have the stability of how to do our core responsibility. Yes. What do you think about that, Jennifer?
Well, a lot. And so from me, everything that you just said, where it hit with me was inside my organization. I can go, we need to work on this. We need to work on this. This is what's important. This is how we're going to get better. This is how we're going to be amazing. Like those, that's great. I can come up with those all day long, but I'm one person and we are a very big organization. And so what I did is I tasked a group of, change agents within my firm and said, hey, what are some things that we like really need to be thinking about? And one of them, and I don't know if he's on today, but if not, go love on him, Rob Grady. Rob Grady said, Jennifer, like, this is all great, all these tools and all these like ideas and things that are going to make us better. But do we ever stop and think about the workflow and the processes by role? And I'm like, what? And he's like, I'm not saying that we don't have those basic compliance checkbox things. Like we understand those are important. It's construction. But is the person that's doing the work when they come in at a field engineer, project engineer level, and when they're learning it and being able to do that versus a senior superintendent looking at it? Are we looking at it by role and how those people fit into that process and that workflow? And I was like, whoa. So now, because the way we're structured, we are getting a resource team that, that we are now going to have a team digging into what does that look like? And how can we look at that and make things better and help people that are coming in that can, understand the basic part of it, but also those leaders that are out there having to lead it and what does that look like and how is it different? So yes.
No, that is gangster. Like just use Last Planner System as an example. We're doing it and and this is a common thing. Most of the folks interact with it so that we could teach the foreman their responsibility to the system. And nobody else understands their damn responsibility to the system, and nobody's talking about it. And so you wonder why it doesn't stick. Was because you're making me do something that you're not doing, and you have a responsibility to it. So that's what I heard from what you're saying is this thing, and everybody in the org, or maybe not everybody, but people on the team, there are different responsibilities and expectations from the system for each level.
Yes.
And breaking that up and being clear about project manager, this is your responsibility. Superintendent, this is your responsibility. Foreman, this is to the one system.
You think about like, okay, let's just do like a quality program. Like, is the field engineer, project engineer, APM, superintendents, their role in a quality program versus another person's role? I mean, they may not all be the same. Safety, to me, I feel that's across the board, but there's things that we say, here's what it is, but like somebody's not going to be a part of that. And so have we looked at it from different roles and how can they support it? How can they help when it comes to getting that across the finish line? Like that was like next level.
Yes. Yeah. On James Gable, he says he stole your idea. No, he's interacting over there with Albert. James, you need to be paying attention here. Albert can't be sharing notes out there. I'm joking. This is awesome. He says his company is rolling out a new scheduling software this week. The vetted it out and created a SME team of super subject matter experts. This team is there to talk about all the issues they ran into, and the best parts is they create a feedback loop. Great change management. So deploying change requires a change management type of thinking, because it's not just, pull the trigger and make things happen. So Steve Martin asked a question or made a comment.
Okay.
And I think it's really important. Maybe we could, we're still going. Okay. So he says, I've learned to break this topic into two areas: change and sustainable change. Thank you, Steve. He uses different cheat codes for each. If want to discuss deeper, join me at the after party.
He's already marketing it. He's like, got it.
I think, we're going to explore that, because there is a difference
between
change and sustainable change.
Well, and I got a story when you get done doing your thing.
Go.
No, well, and so Emerson made a comment, because I presented at Congress last year on data, and we talked about data, and we dug into how we capture data, how we display data, how we communicate data, the transparency of it, how we kind of sometimes it's pulling the curtain back. And so a conversation I had with one of our leaders was, we were talking about what I was going to present on. And it ties back to what you had just had up there. And he was just like, well, Jennifer, is that smart to like show them all our stuff? And I was like, yes. And he's like, okay. And I said, let me tell you why. He's like, we're going to talk about all these amazing things we're doing. And then what's the question going to be? And he's like, what's the question? I said, it's going to be, how did you do it? And my answer gets to be, because I have 100% leadership buy-in. With 100% leadership buy-in, I was able to do this and make it sustainable versus it being changed that this is great. We had a success. We're able to celebrate it and put it on social media. And this is great, but it's not sustainable. It doesn't happen over and over and over again. They were able to celebrate it, and then they go back to this different environment. I said, but when you have buy-in from the top and you have change agents in your company that are elevated and empowered and given autonomy, it's sustainable over time. And for us, it's been almost 8 years where it's just, we started organically and it grew. But because of that leadership support, it has been sustainable. And
right. And it didn't start that way either.
No, it did not. We're going to talk about that in 2 weeks in Vegas, aren't we?
Yes, ma'am. We definitely are. So, folks, I want to switch gears here a little bit and start thinking about this question. How do you engage people that are on the fence, right?
Yes.
There's the 20-60-20. 20% of the people are your early adopters. They always get the new fancy whiz-bangy thing. They're open. They like trying new things. They love experimenting. 60% of the people are, I call them the frozen middle, right? They're not going to jump on. They want to see, like, is this initiative actually going to continue? Or are we going to throw this one away like we've done the past 15 years? And they're not going to adjust until they see that it's going to stick and there's some value for them.
Yeah.
And then there's the last 20% that they're like me. They're just not going to change. They want it their damn way, and that's the way it's going to be. And so what do? Focus on the first 20%, the early adopters. So celebrate them, support them, provide them resources, because they are going to help vet these things out. Kind of like James's example of having a group of subject matter experts so that they learn and understand for the organization, so that we can design something that is palatable for everybody in the downstream, right? The frozen middle. Sometimes that last 20% comes around, but you can ask all my exes. I don't come around. Like, it just stays that way. So while y'all are thinking about this question, how do you engage people that are on the fence? I want to go and share some of the cheat codes that folks have shared.
Yes.
Trust. So Nate says, yes, Jesse, see and engage people at their level and bring them along, right? So we're not doing change to people.
Yes.
We are creating change with people. And that's that's really, really, really important.
It's important.
Right? It's difficult because my ego, my performance, my execution, my status is attached to the progress of the change. Yes. And so I want to hurry. Like, no. We've got to do it together. Mm-hmm. Bruce says, I found that the first people I trust are the ones I respect. I think that's absolutely fair, right? Mm-hmm. So behave respectfully. Mm-hmm. And also for Bruce, and I'm sure Bruce does this, be clear about what it is that you respect, mm-hmm. so that people aren't just shooting in the dark, right? Give them an opportunity, set them up for success. Steve Martin says mutual trust guarantees authentic buy-in, right? So trust is kind of a mutual thing. I've trusted people that I sensed didn't trust me. And because of that, I was more guarded with them, right? So it's absolutely an exchange. I saw a little reaction from you there, Jen.
No, I just recently had a conversation with my daughter, 14-year-old Bella. And she asked me a question, which it's interesting that it ties to this. She said, Mom, she goes, what compliments have you received from people that like really like warm your heart and what make you feel good? Ooh. And she goes, and I was like, ooh, and I started thinking about it. And I said, well, it's those I said, for me, it's the compliments I get that it wasn't like, oh, your hair's pretty, or, oh, I like your shirt. Because like there was nothing I did to get them to say that. I said, but I love the ones of like, you're a good friend, or thank you for listening to me, or that really helped me, because then something I intentionally did, caused a reaction in them and made them like feel like that I'd done something to help them. And and it was cool because she was just like, yeah, she's like, the ones for me, one of them was that you smell good, which is like a 14-year-old thing. And then the other was just like, yeah, when my friends tell me like, like you really, I know you care. And like, and let's take that and amplify that to what we're talking about, respect and trust. And it's like, when people feel it, when they feel it, it doesn't have to be, I'm going to do you and I'm going to do you and I'm going to make sure you feel it. But when the way you and I talk about this all the time, the way we show up, and the way we exhibit the behaviors we seek.
Yes.
And like, it's so simple, but is that how, when you're in the middle of something, is that what you want them to be doing to you? And it, like, when you're thinking about it from that way, sometimes you're going to realize, well, crap, like I'm doing this, yet I wouldn't want someone to be doing that to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As you're talking, I'm thinking about feedback, and Matt Graves had a post about, man, I've been trying to get feedback and all I get is, it's good, it's great, it's awesome. And so in this thing, right, I have a little survey that I created. It's very specific about the feedback I want. Mm-hmm. One of the questions on there is, what do I do that helps you trust me, right? How did my messaging impact your thinking? Mm-hmm. That's what I want to know. And yeah, secretly, that's how I gather compliments. Like those are
know
really meaningful to me, and I want to know how I do it, because I want to keep doing it, because it keeps me getting invited back to the party. All right, so
it is following up with what we say. Like, to me, that's a big deal. If I say it's a 30-minute meeting, it's a 30-minute meeting, maybe a 29-minute meeting. It is not ever a 31-minute meeting. Like, and those are little things, but when we're talking about trust and respect, and sometimes we don't get to go, okay, now I'm going to create this environment where by the time you finish, you're going to trust me. Like, we're not in that, we don't get to start with that. But if you say it's a 15-minute stand-up, or if you say we're going to come in and I really want to hear your thoughts, and we want to do something, and then you do it, you're creating the environment for that. If you say something and then you don't do it, you are not creating the environment for that.
Exactly. And that echoes James's comment, where reliability to commitments and respect are a couple of ways he builds trust. Man, we got some major cheat codes coming in today. Nate says, kind and honest engagement with every individual and understanding that every relationship is singular. One-on-one, singular. Me and you, and then me and whomever, like that. Yes, gangster.
I believe that with everything. Hugs, to me, that's why hugs are so important to me. And I know sometimes people are just like, oh crap. But like, I hug every single person because that is me and them. Like that is not a, ooh, we're all going to be in this kumbaya fireside chat. That's great. Those are great environments. But when you're hugging somebody or you're one-on-one with somebody, it's a game changer.
Yes. Yes. And so I think we're going to transition to the cheat codes for like getting people off the fence.
Okay. Do it.
Sarah says, and folks, I'm sharing these cheat codes for the replay for folks that may not be watching the chat, because these are things that can help you drive change when you're in these murky waters, right? Like take notes, because some of this stuff is gangsta. So Sarah says, I have found, even if it was originally my idea, many people won't even realize that. My goal is to have people see it as their idea versus mine. This then means they buy in and see the value. Remove your ego.
Just remove ego. Hashtag remove your ego. Yes.
Right? Like that's, I mean,
oh, that's huge.
There have been many times on the Thursday and Friday or Tuesday and Friday calls where I'm like, wait a minute, that was my idea. And I say, you know what? It doesn't matter. All I need to know is that I'm helping somebody. I've planted some seeds and it's taken root. And that's the important thing. So Sarah, thank you for that. Because that's a difficult one. That's a really
I'm taking that, Sarah, just so you know.
There you go, guys.
I'm running with it.
Evidence that Jen will steal your idea, but it's hers. It's totally hers. Well done, Sarah. Nate, again, he says, don't scare them away by yelling at them, and don't just tell them to get down. Go see why they have decided to climb over it. I mean, yeah, right? Like the question, and it's difficult. Somebody post? I think it was Justin posted something about.
Well, I was going to bring it up, but I'm like, I'll just wait till the end when we wrap. But no, Justin put amazing post out this week that ties into a lot of the things we're talking about. Gangsta post on just the work and how our expectations of the work, and we created in this one little environment and think it's always going to be in that environment. It's always going to be, it should exactly be this way. And like, how could we expect that?
We have to find out, right? We got to pump the brakes, take the time to understand why.
Yes.
Like what and what are the contributing factors to the situation? Because there's a lot. And how do we do that? Kind of like Nate said earlier, one-on-one. Let's go one singular interaction at a time, understand what the contributing factors are, so that ideally, kind of like the comment earlier about collecting data, if you're not going to do anything with the information, don't bug people about it.
Yep.
Gather the knowledge that's available, and then put something into play that is going to mitigate or eliminate the possibility of that situation occurring again in the future.
Well, keep that up, because you were a part of this conversation this week. Is when we think about safety, and we think about the safety police and people that come out and how they're perceived, but also how they engage with people. And safety is important. We know it is on our job sites, like if we're not focused on the value of safety, not the priorities can change, but when we focus on the value of safety and what that can be. And I think TJ said, if someone's doing something unsafe, yelling at them, okay, for that moment, they're going to try to not be in trouble. But getting them down, and I love this, getting them down and going, like, we want to make sure you get home tonight. Like, what could we do different? That's a different conversation.
Yes, totally. Because you're not worried about compliance. You're worried about the person.
Yeah, the human?
The human being that's doing the thing? Absolutely. I love this. So Amy shares a cheat code. She says, pay attention to what people don't say. Invite them to speak in a neutral place, coffee, whatever. Like, kind of tying in Nate's comment and Amy's comment is they're made like the standing on the top of the ladder thing. I've done it. And the reason was it was the only ladder I had, right? Like it was an 8-foot ladder. I needed a 10-foot ladder. I didn't have a 10-foot ladder. I'm trying to get the job done. So that's why I did it. Did I ask for a 10-foot ladder? Yes, 10 times. Did I get it? Me on top of the ladder is evidence that I didn't. Do I know better? Yes, I know better. But I also know that every other time I've been on the top of the ladder, I didn't fall. And so there's this thing. Now, when somebody say, hey, bro, come on, get off of there. Let's talk. Then it's like, ooh, somebody's demonstrating appreciation for me, maybe I should just listen to them. That's a totally different thing, right? Like to this date, if there are no witnesses, I promise you, there's a high likelihood that I will stand on the top of the ladder. If there's people around that I know care about me, I'm not gonna, because they're gonna get on me about it, right? And because I know they care about me. It's a very, very different situation. And so, like to Amy's comment, pay attention to what people aren't saying, right? Some of our trade craft people, or in any situation, we're focusing a lot on construction because that's our experience. What they aren't saying is, I've asked my foreman. They haven't listened to me. So folks, like you, we have the opportunity to be the advocates for people that have been silenced.
And engage them in the solution.
100%. Yes, ma'am. So Brad says, oh, again, knowing the languages your folks speak relative to their levels of responsibility. So we're not talking about Portuguese and Spanish and German. We're talking about the different code switching between levels of responsibility is crucial to implementing the vision and direction. Effectively describing it needs to encourage those other tertiary performers to learn a little of your language. And so that, again, how do we learn new languages? By communicating with people, talking to them, making it okay for them to say, what does tertiary mean? Right? Like, what does that word
vulnerability
mean?
Transparency, like those are like, oh, those are scary words sometimes. But I think earlier someone said, like, what we're hearing is a lot of the lack of transparency, lack of vulnerability, because of what we're used to, the environments we're used to being in. Like, you can't be that way and be able to be successful.
Yes.
It's changing.
Yes, here we go. Another one. On the fence demeanor can typically be read. Like, we know when people are on the fence. Bring them in. Have, again, this one-on, folks, if you're not catching the theme here, one-on-one interaction is a big deal. Have them one-on-one, connect on a personal level, and lead by being in the trenches. Be there with them. Have an understanding of what it is they're experiencing.
Yes. And we talked about this week again. We had some really good examples, but a takeaway from a job walk is, Jesse, and this was, I mean, you brought it up, and the takeaway from someone on the job site is like, I never thought about that. But when you go walk the job, and this is one of Jesse's cheat codes, when you go walk the job, instead of looking at the production and looking at the outcomes, turn and look at the eyes and hands of the people doing the work. Like, it's a different perspective.
Totally. So again, like, we're running up on time.
I know.
So we did a little exercise, a little sample of the sweat equity improvement. And you were tasked to stand outside. There was some electricians doing some roughing in a ditch. We were there for about 10 minutes. And you were studying their work. You were tasked with focusing on the eyes and the hands of one individual and write down all the steps. What did that feel like?
It was, well, it was hot and it was dusty and it was like not a good, I mean, it was just not fun. I mean, I'm going to say it wasn't, it was fun for me because I was learning, but it was also like just not comfortable. Like it was, okay, how much longer? But I'm documenting everything that's happening and step by step and all the different things. And it was almost like, I'm going to say, it's not burdensome, but it was just like one of those where I'm just like it just didn't feel good.
Okay. And you were standing there taking notes.
I was taking notes. Yes. It was just not, it was hot. And there was a lot of, just little element things that it was in, it was not the greatest environment. How about that? It was not the greatest environment.
Now, how did you feel about the two gentlemen that were in the ditch doing the work?
I just wanted to give them a canopy and some water, and I wanted to help them.
Yeah. How long have you been in construction?
20 years.
How many times have you felt that way before?
Well, that's kind of my heart, but seeing it like that, I had not seen it like that. Like I had not watched it and felt it because I was seeing the stuff they like their hands and their eyes and what all the little elements. I hadn't looked at it that granularly.
Yeah. And so my takeaway, Jen, is by doing that small little sample of the exercise, you built some empathy for the workers and what they were dealing with.
Yes.
And you had an energy around, man, how can I make it better for them?
Yes.
Not to them.
Yes.
For them. The things that stood out was it's freaking hot. How can we get them a camp, like a little tent? And can we get them some water? And what can we do to improve the work for them? Like that is the fundamental principle. If you're going to improve something, do it in service to the men and women that are experiencing the pain of the work.
Yes.
We didn't get to that part in the exercise, but that's the magic. That is the beautiful.
Well, did you see Amy's like not just hands and eyes, but feet.
Oh, yes. 100%. Right. Because one of them wasn't on his feet, he was on his hands and knees.
Yep.
That ain't comfortable. Thank you for that. And Maria says literally every time. I love it. So, folks, thank you for sharing your cheat codes. Everybody that's watching this on the replay, you're gonna want to replay it again because
I'm gonna have to replay it because I missed all the stuff over there on the other side.
Yeah, like we flashed up a bunch of the comments. There's even more even more cheat codes in the chat. So pay attention to those. If you're on the YouTube and the Facebook or the Twitter, find us on LinkedIn because that's where most of the comments are coming from. If you're on the other platforms, they're not going to come through the natural feed. So come on over to LinkedIn, open up a new account so we can be super connected there. Look at that. Brad says granularly, Jennifer Lacey, as a dude that's come up through the trades. Thank you for that observation. Yes, amazing. So we got 4 minutes, Jen, and I think there's some fun stuff that we want to talk
Yes, we do.
What is it? You recognize that picture?
Okay, so we're going to do a disclaimer here that there's probably way more blooper outtakes of me and Buddy and Adam than there are Jesse because Jesse was the editor. We've realized when the editor has control, sometimes they don't put all of their maybe not so great examples in there.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jen. Like I'm telling you, I put days in to finding my bloopers. It was just hard.
Well, whatever. Anyway, we recorded our Lean in Love book with some amazing people. And so Buddy, we got him engaged and he's reading. He read some intro and some stuff. Adam narrated it. Jesse and I got to talk through our pieces of the book. And so a lot of people have been like, audiobook, when are you getting the audiobook? And we thought, well, we could do it like normal and just make it, check the box, or we can make it fun. And so Jesse has tons of video that I'm sure we're going to see on all the socials, but he also pulled in all the screw up things that we did that we had to redo and re-record and all that. And so that's what the blooper reel is. But we also, on the bottom, if you see, the audiobook is launching March 18th. And so it will be available for you to grab and listen to all the craziness of the book, but you get to listen to it in your car, in your ears, and all that. So
Yes. So audiobooks drops March 18th. The blooper reel is available right now. I just put the link in all the chats. Would love for y'all to come and find, share your takeaway. So a bunch of people have already downloaded it and accessed it. It was a ton of fun. I was cracking up going through the edits because I know how goofy we were. And also, so the audiobook, you can get the audiobook now. If you sign up for the Emotional Bungee Jumpers on the early adopter rate, the audiobook is part of that.
Yes.
The audiobook will be available to the general public on the 18th after the early adopter rate expires. And in all seriousness, thank you all for supporting us, right? Jen and I were talking before we launched this live stream today about there's not a whole lot of instances where it's man, I'm excited to show up. And it's going to be, I know I'm going to have fun. I have a responsibility, but I also know that I'm going to get so much value from the interaction and hanging out with you guys. the questions, the comments, the thoughts, the ideas, they just fuel me and fuel this creativity, all this content that's coming out. So I'm grateful to all of y'all for breathing life into my life.
Yes. Wow.
All right, we're gonna close it out, and then we're gonna be the whatchamacallit? What's the thing?
After party.
The after party. So I've posted the after party links on LinkedIn. They're in the NoBS page. You can find the after party link there. I'm not gonna post it in the chat here because it does some funky thing on LinkedIn. So go to the NoBS page and you'll be able to find the link there. And we're hoping that you'll bring some good stuff. I know Steve Martin's already threatened or promised what he's going to be sharing with us, or where he's going to be taking that conversation, which I'm super excited about. And if you're not available for the after party, it's cool. Still love you. We will see you next time. What do you think, Jen?
Yes. My closing comment is a takeaway I got this week from a conversation I had with one of our senior superintendents. And he said, Jennifer, this is all great. And people are engaged and they're excited and they're doing really big things and they've committed time to do it and they want to be a part of this change. How are you recognizing them? And again, that's probably another show, but it had to take some steps back, because sometimes we get so ingrained in the change and what's going on and we're excited about it that we don't realize these people still have full-time jobs doing a lot of big things, and they're also excited about something new and different. We've got to make sure we're turning around and acknowledging them. And sometimes it's not just money. Like, money's great, but sometimes it's a little bit different than that. And so, like, think about that when you see people that are excited and making a choice to be engaged in something. How are you recognizing them?
Yes, let's recognize one another. Beautiful. We will see y'all next time. Peace.